Hey guys, it's been a while, I know. Nothing's wrong, nothing crazy has happened. I just got a little bit tired, okay? But now that I'm refreshed, now that I'm ready to go, let's get into football, all right? So, Eagles and Giants recap, Rams and Ravens recap, Browns and Steelers recap, 49ers and Bucks recap, Broncos and Jets recap, Bills versus Falcons recap, my thoughts on Tua's comments, and trade predictions, okay? All of this and more on the 94th episode of the Football Junkies podcast, okay? I am your host with the most, all right? I am your GM who currently is not on a team right now, but don't you worry about it, all right? Don't you worry about it because I'm your chief bag road dominus, all right? Chief, head of the table, anything and everything related to the bag, rumors to the bag, and more. But guess what? I'm all these things and more. But most importantly, the most important thing that you must remember is I am your host, Kale. I know it's been a while, but I still got the juice, and I can still go toe to toe with any and every other podcaster that you can name. I can do it because I'm that guy. So guess what? On three, 1, 2, 3, let's lock in. All right, folks, let's get into the meat and potatoes of everything that is going on in the league right now. So, I know it's been a while. You guys are probably wondering what's going on. Nothing is going on. The last time I tried to put out an episode, it just wasn't that good. I was really tired, and I was like, you know what? Instead of me trying to push through this episode, and I know it's not going to be the best to my standards, I'll just take a break, recharge, and then when I come back, we're back in the race. And while I was gone, I do have a few ideas that I think I'm probably going to start rolling out fairly soon. Just have to figure out how I want to do it while incorporating the daily episodes that I give you guys as well. So, with that being said, let's get into football because I have a lot to say because a lot of time has passed. So, let's get into it, all right? So, let's start with the Eagles and Giants game. So, Jackson Dart, 25 attempts for 17 completions, 195 passing yards, 1 touchdown, 7.8 yards per attempt, and a 68 completion percentage. Cam Scatterbo, 19 attempts for 98 rushing yards, 5.2 rushing yards per carry, 3 touchdowns, and 4 rushes of 10 plus yards or more. Wandale Robinson, 7 targets for 6 receptions, 84 receiving yards, 1 touchdown, and 14 receiving yards per reception. Jalen Hurts, 33 attempts for 24 completions, 283 passing yards, 1 touchdown, 1 pick, 8.6 yards per attempt, and a 72.7 completion percentage. Saquon Barkley, 12 attempts for 58 rushing yards, 4.8 rushing yards per carry, and 3 rushes of 10 plus yards or more. Dallas Goedert, 11 targets for 9 receptions, 110 receiving yards, 1 touchdown, and 12.2 receiving yards per reception. So a couple takeaways from this game. For starters, Jackson Dart is going to be the reason why the Giants have a chance to have a better season than what they did last year. I understand that he's a rookie. I understand that he's going to make mistakes. I understand there's going to be highs and lows throughout this entire season. But if Jackson Dart can do at least 50% of what he did against the Eagles for the rest of the season, they have a chance. Because the defense is formidable. All they need is just the offense to just be a little bit better. I'm not saying the offense has to be elite, but if they're average to slightly above average, I think that's enough. Let's be real here, folks. The Giants are in a good situation. I think with what Jackson Dart showed, I think that's something that you can hang your hat on. And mind you, he did this without Malik Neighbors. He did this with Wandale Robinson, Jalen Hyatt, Theo Johnson, and Cam Scatterbo. Think about that for a second. Now, I know all the Eagles fans are saying, well, we didn't have Jalen Carter on the field, and Quinyon Mitchell was out, and this person was hurt, and that person was hurt. There's no excuses because you know why? Everybody is dealing with some type of injury at this point in the season. It's either you put up or you shut up, plain and simple. And the fact of the matter is, Jackson Dart put up and shut up the Eagles. Now, am I saying that Jackson Dart is going to, beat the Eagles the next time they face each other? No. But I will say this. He ain't just no average quarterback. He got a little fight in him. He got a little dog in him. And I like to see that. Now, I'll be honest with you. Leading up to this past draft, I wasn't high on Jackson Dart. I thought Jackson Dart was very average quarterback. There wasn't anything in his repertoire that I felt like, okay, this is a franchise quarterback. But what he showed on Thursday, I can rock with that. Now let's talk about the Giants defense, okay? So for starters, that defensive line is formidable. I would make a strong case that that's probably a top 5 defensive line in the league. Not in their division, but in their league. They have to find a way to keep that core. And for all the people that were saying, well, the Giants should trade away Dexter Lawrence or Kayvon Thibodeau now they drafted Abdul Carter. No. You have to find a way to keep that core. Because that core is successful. And there are stats that actually back it up. So according to Next Gen Stats, when Brian Burns, Kayvon Thibodeau, and Abdul Carter are all on the field, the Giants pressured the quarterback 45.7% of their dropbacks. When 2 of the 3 pass rushers are on the field, the pressure rate drops to 32.1% and the dropback success rate increases to 46.8%. And I don't want to hear from any Eagles fan that says, well, they went up against a beat-up offensive line. Let's see if they try to do that when everybody is healthy. Stop it. Okay? This is not Madden. This isn't something where you can take out one person and you put somebody in and now they're going to play healthy the entire game. No. People get hurt. This is real life, okay? So relax. Now let's talk about the Eagles. So for starters, the offense lacks creativity, explosiveness, and consistency. Granted, I understand they have a new offensive coordinator and things take time, but what is going on? Because all I keep on hearing is cookie cutter bull from a lot of these offensive leaders when somebody needs to be saying, hey, this offense ain't right. We need to get something going here. Because again, you are about to approach the middle point of the season. And if your offense isn't comfortable at this point, what are we doing? I understand that you guys don't have a lot of your starting offensive linemen. I understand that you're going up against a really good defensive line. But there is no excuse for this offense to not be where it's supposed to be. And I put a lot of this on Jalen Hurts. You had 2 people that you could have easily thrown to that you could have won the game with. But you didn't want to do it. Why? I don't know. A.J. Brown had the leverage. So all you had to do was just give him the ball. It was a guaranteed catch and touchdown. Same thing with Dallas Goedert. He was guaranteed to get a first down. So why in the world would you not look at them first before giving it to Devontae Smith, which led to a pick 6? This is something that I said with my friends, as well as Corey from the Get It Done With 4 podcast. Shout out to him. If you're a Commanders fan, Eagles fan, Cowboys fan, Giants fan, you should listen to his podcast because he gives a really in-depth analysis on your division. The offensive coordinator problem will be the reason why A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith want to leave. As an offensive coordinator, anytime you're on a loaded offense like the Eagles, your job is to find creative ways to utilize your weapons. And if you can't utilize them in a special way, you just don't need to be an offensive coordinator. And I understand that this is Nick Sirianni's friend. He's known him a long time, but clearly he doesn't know what he's doing. And I understand some people are saying, well, you got to give it time. You got to be patient. Sometimes you got to go through trial by fire. No. Because right now, the Buccaneers are going to be a problem. The Lions are still going to be a problem. There's a few other NFC teams that you're going to have to worry about. So you can't continue to lose these type of games when you know you have the weapons to beat the other team. That doesn't make any sense. You cannot give the type of money that you just gave to Saquon and think, oh, we're really not going to use him like how we should use him. No. 12 attempts for 58 rushing yards? That's not good enough. 4.8 rushing yards per carry? And you only have 3 rushes of 10 plus yards or more? No. I understand that the defensive line is loaded, but you as the offensive coordinator need to find a creative way on how to utilize Saquon Barkley. And he didn't do it. Better yet, since we're talking about the offense, let's talk about what Lane Johnson had to say after the game, because it's very important to know what he said, because he's one of the tenured veterans on this team, not just on the offense, on the entire team. This is what he said, and I quote, "I feel like a lot of what we did last year was run, play, action, and it kind of fed off of each other. And defenses had a real hard time of guessing what it was going to be. And I think the last 2 weeks, you kind of know what it is. You know when the pass is coming. You know when the run is coming. Moving forward, we've got to do a better job of that. There's flashes, But flashes don't score points. It's about consistency. We have spurts, but nothing consistent enough. We have things we talk about, but the execution isn't there. We get behind the chains. We get very predictable sometimes. It's frustrating, but we have a lot of season ahead of us. Confident with the guys in the room to get it fixed and not make games so hard on ourselves, make it more fluid. I feel like we've been very stagnant offensively. We have to be able to keep the defenses guessing, not being predictable. We have spurts, but nothing consistent with what we're doing. I feel like last year we had big shots, big explosives that we were able to feed off of on our drives. We have some, but we're not able to capitalize on them. We may have a huge play, but we're not able to keep going and score. We were winning in the first month, but we weren't dominating. It's frustrating. You see the guys that we have on the offensive side of the ball, we should be doing a lot more to help our defense out. It's frustrating, but nothing we can't turn around, end quote. Everything that I just said, Lane Johnson just backed it up. You can tell that this offense is not the same. You can tell that it went from being a more creative, multi-dimensional type of offense to a borderline one-dimensional type of offense. That's not going to win you games. That's not going to put points on the board. And you can't continue to rely on the defense to bail you out of games. At some point, the offense is going to have to do its thing. Jeffrey Lurie isn't going to continue to write checks for big offensive weapons, and the offensive weapons aren't being utilized. It's already bad enough that A.J. Brown doesn't want to be there. It's already bad enough that you have a little bit of friction on other parts of this offense. But the fact that you guys can't put points on the board against a team like the Giants, come on. What are we doing here? Now, when we talk about the defense for the Eagles, there's a lot of things that could be said, but I think the number one thing that needs to be addressed is corner. I understand they have Quinyon Mitchell. I understand they have Cooper DeJean and Adoree Jackson, Kelly Ringo. Howie, get on the phone. Call the Seahawks. Trade for Tyreek Woolen. Because Adoree Jackson is not going to solve it. Kelly Ringo ain't going to solve it. Wan'Dale Robinson had a career night. Jalen Hyatt, a name that we haven't talked about in years, looked really good. Theo Johnson looked really good. Cam Scatterbo looked really good. And I understand, we didn't have Jalen Carter, and we don't have this person, that person. No excuses. Because you have to be able to find a way to win games even without Jalen Carter. You still have Jordan Davis. You still have Mario Jomo. You just drafted Ty Robinson. You had Za'Darius before he unexpectedly retired. So what exactly isn't clicking? And speaking of pass rusher, the Eagles are going to need that as well. Because right now, we don't know when Nolan Smith is coming back. I don't know if Zach Bond is hurt or not. So you're going to need other pass rushers to step up. And you trade away Bryce Huff. You let Josh Sweat go in free agency, which, you wouldn't be able to afford him anyway. But you're going to have to make some significant trades to bolster up this defense. So Matthew Stafford, 26 attempts for 17 completions, 181 passing yards, 1 touchdown, 7 yards per attempt, and a 65.4 completion percentage. Kyron Williams, 13 attempts for 50 rushing yards, 3.8 rushing yards per carry, 1 touchdown, and 1 rush of 10-plus yards or more. Tyler Higbee, 4 targets for 4 receptions, 40 receiving yards, 1 touchdown, and 10 receiving yards per reception. Cooper Rush, 19 attempts for 11 completions, 72 passing yards, 1 pick, 3.8 yards per attempt, and a 57.9 completion percentage. Tyler Huntley, 15 attempts for 10 completions, 68 passing yards, 4.5 yards per attempt, and a 66.7 completion percentage. Derrick Henry, 24 attempts for 122 rushing yards, 5.1 rushing yards per carry, and 4 rushes of 10-plus yards or more. Zay Flowers, 10 targets for 6 receptions, 46 receiving yards, 7.7 receiving yards per reception. So a couple things with this game, all right? For starters, I feel like the Ravens should have relied more on the run game than the pass game. I just feel like, personally, if you're going to go with Cooper Rush, keep a very strict plan. Short, intermediate passes, play action, and most importantly, run the damn ball. If you do those 3 things, you're guaranteed to win. Because you have Keaton Mitchell and Derrick Henry. You have lightning and thunder. And you also have Justice Hill as well. So anytime Cooper Rush has the ball in his hand, we are not doing anything past 15 yards. So all that deep ball action, it's out the window. All you're trying to do is just get to the bye. Because let's be real here. The Rams didn't play a good game as well. They were very sloppy on defense, offense, and in special teams. So this was a very winnable game for the Ravens. But once again, what did? They flop. But let's talk about the defense. So for starters, I feel like they left a lot of meat on the bone. And the reason why I say that is because there were a lot of times where they could have made some big plays and they didn't. So I feel like, yes, the defense is starting to maybe, fix their problems, but I don't feel confident in the Ravens. I don't feel confident on their trajectory right now because right now I truly believe this is not going to be their year. And if they don't go anywhere this year, John Harbaugh has to go. Because right now, you are wasting the prime years of Lamar Jackson, Derrick Henry, Roquan Smith, Kyle Hamilton, Nate Wiggins, and everybody else you can possibly think of. I'm sorry. This team has invested too much money, time, resources, you name it. They've invested way too much just for this team not to make it to the Super Bowl and win. At some point, either you can do the job or you can't. Because guess what? Most likely, who you're going to have to face in the playoffs? The Chiefs or the Bills or other. Now, right now, I'll be completely honest with you. Even though I should save this, for the Bills game, the Bills don't look strong. The Bills look very beatable this year. And right now, you've already lost to 3 AFC teams. So when the seeding comes around, that's going to negatively affect you. So right now, you're fighting an uphill battle trying to at least bring some confidence back in. So what exactly are you going to do to turn this thing around? Because you still have a lot of games left, so anything can happen. But at the same time, if you're not willing to make changes, then that's a problem. Daniel Falele and Andrew Voorhees is a problem. You have Kevin Zeitler that's available. You have the Browns guards that are available. There are viable options that you could trade for right now that would instantly upgrade this offense and this team as a whole. So I don't understand what Eric DeCosta is doing, but right now it just looks like you're just sitting on your hands and just waiting. So at some point, someone's going to have to ask the tough questions. John, can you do the job? Can you turn this team around? Because I've seen Mike Tomlin do this multiple times in the last 3 years. I've seen him do this without TJ Watt. I've seen him do this with different quarterbacks from Justin Fields to Russell Wilson, now Aaron Rodgers. So why can't you do it, John? When you have a better, more complete roster than what Mike Tomlin does. I'm going to say that when we talk about gut check time, okay? Just giving you guys a heads up. After the trade deadline, we'll have gut check time. Until then, I'm not saying anything else. I'm going to give you the most basic of the basic for every single team moving forward. Once the trade deadline ends, best believe that episode is going to have a gut check time for all the teams. So it may be a long episode, but don't worry, it's on the way. Now let's talk about the Rams. The Rams played sloppy. There were a lot of times where they were offsides. There were a lot of times where they were just making unnecessary penalties. And it was hurting them. And they just weren't playing like how the Rams are supposed to play. So I don't know if they're just going through, their bumps and bruises. I don't know if they're trying to get themselves comfortable. I don't know what's going on with the Rams. But you need to get your act together, okay? Because this could possibly be the last year for Matthew Stafford. Now, defensively, I do believe they need to go after some corners. Because right now, Emmanuel Forbes and Ahkello Witherspoon just isn't enough. I feel like they need to go after a veteran corner. I don't know who's out there that you could really make a trade for. I mean, anybody that would be available will probably be in the NFC, and I don't know if they're going to be willing to do that, but you're going to have to do something. And another thing that we have to talk about with this game, the Ravens' defensive line was not creating any pressure on Matthew Stafford. According to Next Gen Stats, Matthew Stafford was pressured on 4 of his 29 dropbacks at 13.8%. That's the second lowest pressure rate he's faced in a game since 2018. Now, I really want you to think about this for a second here, folks. The Ravens traded away Adolfo Wade not too long ago, and he gets a sack in his first game with the Chargers. Since that trade, the Ravens haven't done anything significant with pass rushers. Granted, you have Mike Green, you have Kyle Van Noy, you have Travis Jones, Tavius Robinson. It's not enough. I don't know what Zach Orr is teaching them, but they're not getting after the quarterback. And that's a problem. Mike Green has all the potential in the world. I keep on saying this, and I will continue to say this from the mountaintops. Mike Green could be the Ravens version of TJ Watt for all we know. But we would never know because why? The Ravens don't know how to use their pass rushers. The Ravens pass rushers can never get home. And this is a repeated trend that we have seen for the last few years. Every pass rusher that they have had do so much better when they leave the Ravens. Matthew Judon, Zadarius Smith, potentially Adolfo Wade. I can continue to go down the list. The last great pass rusher that the Ravens actually developed was Terrell Suggs. Since then, what have they done? But I'm going to save that for gut check time. I'm not going to go any further because if I do, I'm just going to continue to go down this wormhole of why the Ravens will never win a Super Bowl with John Harbaugh and this coaching staff. And I don't really want to do that right now. I want to save that for gut check time, all right? Because a lot can happen from now until then, all right? So let's talk about the Steelers. So Dylan Gabriel, 52 attempts for 29 completions, 221 passing yards, 4.3 yards per attempt, and a 55.8 completion percentage. Quinshon Judkins, 12 attempts for 36 rushing yards, 3 rushing yards per carry. Harold Fanning Jr., 10 targets for 7 receptions, 81 receiving yards, and 11.6 receiving yards per receptions. Aaron Rodgers, 30 attempts for 21 completions, 235 passing yards, 2 touchdowns, 7.8 yards per attempt, and a 70% completion percentage. Jaylen Warren, 11 attempts for 52 rushing yards, 4.7 rushing yards per carry, and 3 rushes of 10-plus yards or more. DK Metcalf, 9 targets for 4 receptions, 95 receiving yards, 1 touchdown, and 23.8 receiving yards per reception. So before we get into this game, I just need to have a public service announcement for all the Steelers fans, beat writers, and journalists, okay? Broderick Jones didn't lock up Myles Garrett, okay? So for all you beat writers, for all you journalists, for all you so-called people that cover the team that have been making articles and tweets and posts on social media saying, well, Broderick Jones locked up Myles Garrett. No, he didn't. Instead, Arthur Smith schemed up a good game plan to counteract Myles Garrett's effectiveness. All they did was just not go in Myles Garrett's direction. They were utilizing Darnell Washington a lot. They were running up the middle. They were doing different things to negate Myles Garrett. It's the same thing that teams do against TJ Watt and every other great pass rusher. So can we please stop? Especially media people who cover the Steelers. You guys, and I will continue to say this, and I said this on somebody's YouTube video. It's one thing if a fan can fanboy over Broderick Jones and the Myles Garrett and that whole Steelers and Ravens rivalry. Okay, fine. I have no problem with that because you know why? You guys are fans. Fans is short for fanatics. But if you are a person who covers the team, if you are a journalist / beat writer that covers the team, you should not be pushing out your personal agendas talking about, well, Broderick Jones is looking pretty good. Broderick Jones, Aaron Rodgers. Oh my God, the Steelers they're going to do something this year. I remember clear as day those first 3 weeks of the season when Aaron Rodgers was actually doing his thing. I saw journalists who cover the team talk about, well, it was worth the wait. It was worth the wait. It was worth getting Aaron Rodgers. So far, it looks like it's a great idea. It's the first 3 weeks of the season. What are we talking about? You get a little chubby for just 3 weeks of football? Are you serious? Really? 3 weeks. And you're already talking about, well, it was worth the wait. Stop it. Stop it. You are a journalist. There is a standard that you must abide by. So all that fanboying and whatnot, leave that for the burner accounts and the restaurant talk and the barbershop talk. Don't do that when that's your job. Your J-O-B. Now that I've got that off my chest, let's talk about some football. So, offensively, what is there to say that hasn't already been said? This Browns offense isn't cutting it. If you really expect Dylan Gabriel to turn mud into gold, I don't know what to tell you. Because all he has is what? Isaiah Bond, Jerry Jeudy, Quinshon Judkins, David Njoku, Harold Fannin Jr. That's it. You don't have a good offensive line, and you're going up against a team who's coming off a bye, whose head coach has a winning record against rookies, and you're playing in a place that you haven't won since the early 2000s. So leading up to this game, you had little to no momentum in your favor. And as the game continued on, all the momentum that you did have just went down and down and down. I didn't expect Quinshon Judkins to do a whole lot. I didn't expect the receivers to do a whole lot. The Steelers were playing their type of ball. Physical, punch you in the face, run the rock hard, and just put points on the board. And that's exactly what they did. Now, defensively, the Browns tried to stay in the game, but it just wasn't enough. Especially when you have Arthur Smith, who purposely schemed up a game plan to negate Myles Garrett. So I'll be honest, I wasn't expecting the Browns to win. I wasn't expecting this game to be even close. Honestly speaking, they probably should have just kept Joe Flacco. If they had Joe Flacco on the field, then I think we could have a different conversation. But because you traded him to the Bengals, not so much. But before we talk about the Steelers, I have to give credit where credit is due. Mike Tomlin looks like a genius right now. You traded for Jalen Ramsey, a person that a lot of people were saying, oh, he's a head case, he's going to be a problem in the locker room. And so far, there haven't been no problems. You waited for Aaron Rodgers, even though I said it during that entire process. You can look at my previous episodes. I was 100% against waiting for Aaron Rodgers. But so far, it looks like it's working. The Aaron Rodgers that we saw with the Jets and the Packers, you don't see that here. You see somebody that's focused, that's locked in, that's been a ray of sunshine for this offense. And I think that's great. And I think that just shows that, hey, being in a different situation sometimes can bring the best out of you. People can change. Sometimes you're in a really crappy, toxic situation for, a season or two, and then you go to another team and, you have your best year. And so right now, Aaron Rodgers is looking really good. Now, am I saying that the Steelers are going to go to the Super Bowl this year? No. I'm not going to say anything. Mind you, I really haven't said anything like how I did last year. Last year, I'll be honest, Mook, you know what I'm getting ready to say. I was drinking from the cup. I was taking big gulps of the cup last year. But this year, no. I'm going to let things play out. I'm going to wait till we face the Colts, the Bills, and the Packers. If we can beat two of those three teams, then I may start talking my stuff. But until we reach that point, I'm not saying anything. But back to football. This was a really good game plan for the Steelers. Sure, I want the run game to be a little bit better. Sure, I want them to convert on their third down. Sure, I want them to attack the middle of the field more. Sure, I want them to start passing it to Pat Freiermuth and start using different players in a different way. Sure, but the fact of the matter is the Steelers' offense is finding ways to win, put points on the board, while at the same time using people that, quite frankly, were not being utilized in the last 2 or 3 years. That's significant, and that needs to be talked about a whole lot. Arthur Smith's offense is very boring by a lot of people's standards, but guess what? It gets the job done. If I'm not mistaken, and I will have to fact check this, I think the Steelers are like top 5 or top 10 when it comes to the red zone. I mean, they're using Darnell Washington like he's Gronk, which, I mean, that's probably a bad analogy, but that's the only person I could think of because, size and whatnot. But we're not talking about that, okay? We're talking about football. I think if they continue to grow as the season progresses, I think this offense could be a little bit of a problem for other defenses. Because I truly believe that right now, with the formula that they have, I think they could beat the Bills. I think they could give a lot of other AFC teams problems. Because let's be real here. The AFC this year is weak. And the teams that we thought were going to be the Super Bowl candidates really aren't. If you would have told me that the Colts would be playing the way that they're playing with Daniel Jones, I would have called you a liar. But they are. The Bills really aren't a problem. The Chiefs right now, they're starting to get their act together, but I still have to wait and see what they're going to do with the trade deadline coming up. And honestly, I mean, the Ravens, they're just going down the toilet. Broncos, they're going to get their act together. Everybody else, it's whatever. But huge shout out to Aaron Rodgers and Arthur Smith and Mike Tomlin for scheming up a good game plan against the Browns. Now, defensively, they were going after Dylan Gabriel. They were crushing Dylan Gabriel. Nick Herbig had a really good game. Jalen Ramsey got a sack. Think about that. If you would have told me that Jalen Ramsey would get a sack before Myles Garrett gets a sack in this game, I would have called you a liar. I know somebody made a crazy bet with that and probably won some money off of it. Hey, things are clicking. Things are starting to look good for the Steelers. Now, it's only up from here. Granted, they still have some positions that they do need to address. Corner, maybe interior defensive line, maybe safety. But outside of those positions, I think they're a really good team. Now, again, we've seen this same recipe before. The first half of the season, they're playing really well. They're dominating, playing really good ball. And then that second half of the season, they're like flour hitting water. They just disintegrate. So hopefully that doesn't happen. Hopefully they actually do something this year, because I truly believe that there is a good chance that this year they could possibly win a playoff game, maybe even more. If that offense really starts clicking and that defense stays consistent, we may have to have a different conversation. I'm just saying. I'm not going to go there yet, but it's starting to get there. Now let's talk about the 49ers and Buccaneers game. So Mac Jones, 39 attempts for 27 completions, 347 passing yards, 2 picks, 8.9 yards per attempt, and a 69.2 completion percentage. Christian McCaffrey, 17 attempts for 54 rushing yards, 3.2 rushing yards per carry, 1 touchdown, and 1 rush of 10 plus yards more. Kendrick Bourne, 9 targets for 5 receptions, 142 receiving yards, 28.4 receiving yards per reception. Baker Mayfield, 23 attempts for 17 completions, 256 passing yards, 2 touchdowns, 11.1 yards per attempt, and a 73.9 completion percentage. Ricard White, 17 attempts for 65 rushing yards, 3.8 rushing yards per carry, 1 touchdown, and 2 rushes of 10 plus yards or more. Cameron Johnson, 4 targets for 4 receptions, 64 receiving yards, 1 touchdown, and 16 receiving yards per reception. So, man, oh man, what is there to say about this game? Oh, I know. Baker Mayfield is my MVP this year. I don't care what anyone says. You can name me this quarterback. You can name me this player. Baker Mayfield is the MVP this year. If this game don't say it, I don't know what else to tell you. Because the fact that he won this game without Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, you lost Emeka Egbuka during the game, you didn't have Bucky Irving, and you still found a way to win? Come on, guys. Come on, guys. We got to have an honest conversation. If we don't want to have an honest conversation, then I don't know what to tell you. But that game right there proved that the Buccaneers are a legitimate problem this year. I will continue to say it. Do not sleep on the Buccaneers. If they get healthy and if they make 1 or 2 moves during the trade deadline, I guarantee you they will be able to go toe-to-toe with the Eagles and any other NFC candidate you could possibly name me right now. That's how good they are. That's how well they played on Sunday. But defensively, they did a really good job. Even though they didn't have Benjamin Morrison and a few other people, they did a really good job. According to Next Gen Stats, in Week 6, the Buccaneers were 7th in run defense, and they allowed 1 rushing touchdown, 67 rushing yards per game, 3 rushing yards per play, and 1 rush of 10 plus yards or more. So the fact that they limit Christian McCaffrey to 17 attempts for 54 rushing yards, 3.2 rushing yards per carry, 1 touchdown, and 1 rush of 10 plus yards or more, I would say job well done. I would say you completed the mission. Now, I know 49ers fans are saying, well, we didn't have Brock Purdy, and we lost Fred Warner, and we didn't have this person, that person. Don't worry. I got some stuff I got to say about you guys, but we're going to talk about the Buccaneers, though. As of right now, what is stopping the Buccaneers? Like, really think about this for a second. What is really stopping the Buccaneers? Because right now, they're easily going to win their division, okay? Once they win their division, you're either going to have to face the Eagles, Lions, or whoever. Now, depending on how high of a seed they get, if they get home field advantage and you have to face the Eagles, the Lions, or other, I think they can beat them. And honestly speaking, I think another thing that's not being talked about is the fact that Baker Mayfield continues to play despite having another offensive coordinator. He had David Canales, then he had Liam Cohen, and now he has the offensive coordinator that he has now. Under all three of those offensive coordinators, he's played well. And honestly speaking, every single year he's gotten better. So right now, I think if Mike Evans and Chris Godwin can get healthy, I think this is the team that you're going to have to worry about when it gets to the seeding, because they're going to win their division. Who's going to beat them? Falcons? Panthers? Saints? Nah. It's the Buccaneers division. But let's talk about the 49ers offense. So for starters, Mac Jones is playing really well. Am I saying he's going to take somebody's job? No. Am I saying he's going to be able to compete for a starting job next year? No. I think right now he's playing like an above average backup quarterback. And a lot of teams need that. Now, Kendrick Bourne had a really good game. Christian McCaffrey probably could have done a little bit more. But again, you're facing the Buccaneers, who are one of the better run defenses in the entire league. So I'm not really surprised. But let's talk about the defense. So with them losing Fred Warner, I know a lot of people are freaking out and they're trying to figure out, oh, what are they going to do? All hope is lost. The season is over with. No, it's not. They can still do something. It's just going to be a lot difficult because they don't have Fred Warner nor Nick Bosa on the field. And let's be real here. There isn't a Fred Warner that's just available right now for a trade, okay? So either you're going to have to rely on your younger players, or you're just going to have to scheme up something different to supplement Fred Warner not being on the field. Now, honestly speaking here, if you had Dre Greenlaw, guess what? You wouldn't be in this situation. But, well, you know what? Let's leave that alone because that might be sensitive for 49ers fans. Let's just leave that alone. But on a serious note, I do believe the 49ers can still make some noise. But it all depends on what they do with the trade deadline coming up. I do believe they should go after a pass rusher than trying to go after a middle linebacker. And here's why. Outside of Nick Bosa, who else do you really have to worry about on this defensive line? Who else on this defensive line can create consistent pressure on the quarterback? Nobody? Oh, okay. According to Next Gen Stats, the 49ers defense has blitzed on 20.7% of opponents' dropbacks. That is the fifth lowest rate in the National Football League. Now, with that being said, if you're the 49ers, what are you willing to give up to get an elite pass rusher? Because we all know you're going to have to give up a first-round pick. The question is, are you willing to do it, knowing that most likely you're going to have to address the offensive line in next year's draft? Because you could get Max Crosby, you could get Jeffrey Simmons, you could get Trey Hendrickson, but just know you're not going to have a first-round pick. So the question is, do you get a tier 2 or tier 3 pass rusher, maybe somebody that's familiar with Robert Saleh? Or do you try to get somebody that maybe, they get released or something? What exactly do you do to address this problem? Because you need to create pressure. Because if you're not creating pressure, a quarterback is going to pick you apart. So if you're the 49ers, you have a lot of thinking that you have to do within the next few weeks. And you have to come up with a decision fairly quickly because why? The trade deadline is only a few weeks away. And teams are going to start calling. I wouldn't be surprised if the Eagles, Ravens, and a few other teams that need pass rushers are doing the same thing. Now, we all know the Eagles would be willing to give up a first-round pick and more just to get an elite pass rusher because they're that desperate. The question is, will you meet their desperation? But let's talk about the Jets and Broncos game. So Bo Nix, 30 attempts for 19 completions, 174 passing yards, 1 touchdown, 5.8 yards per attempt, and a 63.3 completion percentage. J.K. Dobbins, 14 attempts for 40 rushing yards, 2.9 rushing yards per carry. Evan Ingram, 6 targets for 5 receptions, 42 receiving yards, 8.4 receiving yards per reception. Justin Fields, 17 attempts for 9 completions, 45 passing yards, 2.6 yards per attempt, and a 52.9 completion percentage. Breece Hall, 22 attempts for 59 rushing yards, 2.7 rushing yards per carry. Josh Reynolds, 3 targets for 3 receptions, 25 receiving yards, and 8.3 receiving yards per reception. I'll be honest here, this was a really good defensive game if you love those type of games, but offensively, it was atrocious. Nobody was really able to do anything. So let's start with the Broncos offense. They lacked explosive plays, and honestly speaking, they weren't in rhythm. And every time that they tried to get into a rhythm, it was always disrupted. And if it wasn't for the defense, I couldn't tell you how this game would have ended. Now, according to Next Gen Stats, the Broncos defense held the Jets to 0 explosive plays. The first time an offense has gone without an explosive play in a game since week 22 of the 2021 season, which was the Texans versus the Titans. The Broncos generated 16 pressures on 29 dropbacks against the Jets. That's the 5th highest pressure rate by any team this season. I don't know what's going on with the Jets, but they need to figure it out. Because since week 1, they have regressed every single week, and that's not good. You're supposed to be progressing every single week. This has to be Justin Fields' worst game of his entire career. And honestly speaking, now looking back at it, Pittsburgh made the right decision. They decided to go and wait things out with Aaron Rodgers, and so far it's working. Meanwhile, Justin Fields decided to chase the money, and now look. You look horrible. And most likely, this will probably be the last chance that you get of being a starting quarterback in the league. Because I promise you, the Jets most likely will take a quarterback next year. You cannot run it back with Justin Fields. I'm sorry. Now, if you're Justin Fields, this just goes to show chasing the money isn't always the best option. Sometimes the opportunity is better than the money. And I know people are probably scratching their heads and they're probably figuring out, well, what do you mean? Sometimes if you're in a better opportunity, you really won't be focused on the money as much because the opportunity is great. Case in point, the Patriots. All those years, all those players that want to go to the Patriots, they knew, hey, listen, I'm dealing with Bill Belichick, who's going to be hard-nosed, who's going to be on my ass on the smallest of the small details. But guess what? I'm always going to be competing for a championship. And people brought into that for 20 plus years. And honestly speaking, I would have stayed with Pittsburgh because why? Even if you're the backup with Aaron Rodgers, the fact that Arthur Smith loved you and he was probably going to scheme up some things specifically for you. Come on, man. Because now look at you. Outside of week 1, what have you really shown? Nothing. All of you shown is that you're very athletic and that you can run with your legs. That's it. If you take away his running ability, what does Justin Fields have? It's not like he has this rocket arm or this quick release or, he's able to decipher plays fairly quickly. It's none of those things. So if you're the Jets, how long of a leash are you going to give Justin Fields before you say, you know what, we have to go in a different direction? We literally saw the Jets just look around like they're in La La Land while the clock is going down and everyone's trying to figure out, okay, are we going to run a play? Are we going to take a knee? Are we going to do a timeout? What are we going to do? And they didn't do anything. And guess what? Next thing you know, it hits triple zeros and now they're going into halftime. And Garrett Wilson is letting Aaron Glenn have it. And he deserves every right to do so because it's like, bro, what the hell are we doing? If this is any veteran quarterback, it's going to be a timeout. They're taking a knee. They're doing something. But Justin Fields is a deer in headlights. Why? If it wasn't for their defense, this would have been probably the worst game of all time. And even then, let's talk about their defense. Sauce does not look good. I've been holding in for a very long time, but I said it. They should have never gave Sauce that type of contract because outside of his rookie year, what has he shown? Nothing. Even with Garrett Wilson, you're having these hissy fits and going off on people on the sidelines. Brother, you didn't have to sign that contract. You decided that you wanted to be here. You made that decision. You didn't even give yourself the ability to test free agency just to see, hey, which teams would be interested in me? What's my market? You just said, you know what? F it. I'm just going to sign here. Forget about it. Now look at you. You're back in the same cycle of losing and bad and inconsistent quarterback play that you thought you were going to get out of. I keep telling people the money isn't always worth it. If I'm a player, I would rather take less just so I can be in a better opportunity than to just say, hey, I'm making 30 plus million, but I'm on a team that's probably not going to win 10 games this season. Or I'm on a team right now that most likely I'm going to have a new head coach come next year. Come on, man. What are we doing? But the Jets will be the Jets. So let's talk about the Falcons and Bills game. So Josh Allen, 26 attempts for 15 completions, 180 passing yards, 2 touchdowns, 2 picks, 6.9 yards per attempt, and a 57.7 completion percentage. James Cook, 17 attempts for 87 rushing yards, 5.1 rushing yards per carry, and 2 rushes of 10 plus yards or more. Josh Palmer, 2 targets for 2 receptions, 60 receiving yards, and 30 receiving yards per reception. Michael Penix, 32 attempts for 20 completions, 250 passing yards, 1 touchdown, 7.8 yards per attempt, and a 62.5 completion percentage. Bijan Robinson, 19 attempts for 170 rushing yards, 8.9 rushing yards per carry, 1 touchdown, and 3 rushes of 10 plus yards or more. Drake London, 16 targets for 10 receptions, 158 receiving yards, 1 touchdown, and 15.8 receiving yards per reception. Let's be honest here. The Bills are not Super Bowl contenders. You guys know that meme of the Bugatti in that really crappy house? That's exactly what Josh Allen is with the Bills. Great talent, but in a really messed up situation. And they believe that Josh Allen will be the sole reason why they go to the Super Bowl and win. And that's not the case. The man doesn't have really good weapons. And honestly speaking, their defense is atrocious. I know usually I talk about the offense and the defense, but I have to group them in together because there's so much to talk about with this Bills team. And I knew that something wasn't right with this Bills team when they faced the Saints. Anytime the Saints, a team that doesn't have a lot of weapons, a team that is trying to compete for a top 5 or top 10 pick, is going toe-to-toe with you for the majority of the game, that is a problem. And it clearly showed. Because Bijan Robinson had a great game. The Bills cannot stop the run, and that's a problem. Mind you, they invested a lot of resources into the defensive line this past offseason. From drafting Deion Walker and TJ Sanders to bringing in Joey Bosa, they've done a lot, and clearly it hasn't shown. So what in the world is going on? Not to mention, your corners are not good. Your linebackers are not good. Your safeties are not good. There is nothing on this defense that screams problem. Good problem, by the way. Not bad problem. Good problem. So what in the world are they going to do? Because guess what? If they face the Chiefs again, oh, that's a slaughter. If they face the Ravens, if they get their act together, that could possibly be a problem. So you can't just say, oh, Josh Allen will save us. Done it before. He'll do it again. No, you have to give him time. You have to give him adequate weapons. You can't just throw him Keon Coleman and Khalil Shakir and Gabe Davis was still trying to, recover from his past injury and just say, you know what, turn water into wine. It doesn't work like that. You have to give him a chance. Honestly speaking, I'll be the first person to say it because nobody else wants to say it. And I don't have no ties to any team or any journalist or anything. I truly believe that the Bills Super Bowl window has closed. And you can only blame that on poor drafting, free agency moves, and poor roster building. And I know I'm about to go on a tangent, but just follow me, okay? When we look at the NFC and AFC, The reason why I will always choose an NFC GM over an AFC GM, because you know why? NFC GMs build the entire team. They don't just build one side of the ball. They try to make the team as balanced as possibly can. Whereas the AFC, as long as they have the quarterback, they can just wing it. And most of the times, their windows close a lot faster than NFC teams. The AFC have all the elite quarterbacks, but guess what? They have some of the worst rosters in the entire league. Whereas the NFC, on the other hand, they have some of the best rosters. And they may not have some of the best quarterbacks in the league. So me personally, I would rather have the roster over the quarterback, because you can sort of do what the Eagles are doing. You can have a good quarterback in Jalen Hurts, but you can have this loaded roster that can hide his flaws while at the same time be very productive and put points on the board. Why in the world do we continue to say, oh, this is going to be the year for the Bills? The Bills are going to do it this year. They're not. They're not going to win a Super Bowl. Their last legitimate chance of going to the Super Bowl was the year that they lost to the Chiefs in overtime. Because their defense was productive, the offense was productive, they were moving on all cylinders. But what happened? They kept on choking to Patrick Mahomes every single time. So at some point, you have to start asking the question, is Sean McDermott the guy that's going to take us to the promised land? Because I'm starting to believe that he can't. I'm sorry, if you lose to the Falcons, we have to talk. And this is no discredit to the Falcons, but I mean, this is the same team that got blown out by the Panthers. 30-0. 30-0. That's a Madden score. That's not a real score. That is a Madden score. And they just finished beating a potential quote-unquote Super Bowl team. Are you serious? And I understand everyone's going to say, well, you know, any crazy things can happen in the National Football League. That's why the NFL is so special. Okay, I understand where you're coming from, but come on. Here is a stat that backs up everything that I just said. According to Next Gen Stats, the Falcons blitzed Josh Allen on 55.9% of his dropbacks, the highest blitz rate Josh Allen has faced since Week 8 of the 2021 season. When blitzed, Josh Allen completed 8 of his 14 for 120 yards, 1 touchdown, but was pressured 9 of 19 blitz dropbacks and was sacked 3 times. Don't believe me? Okay, I got another stat. Across 34 routes, Drake London hauled in 10 of his 16 targets for a touchdown. His receptions came from either short or intermediate areas. I'm sorry, folks, but something's wrong. Clearly, this defense is incompetent. Clearly, this defense lacks talent. Your corners are bad. You didn't do anything about it, and you could have done something about it. I'm not really going to put a lot of blame on Maxwell Harrison because he's a rookie. He doesn't really know anything. But for everybody else that's been here, what are we doing? And you guys think that you guys can beat the Chiefs? Hell no. But let's talk about the Falcons, though. They did a great job with their execution, both offensively and defensively. The offense knew that the Bills' run defense isn't that strong, and they attacked it. And they continued to do that the entire game, and it worked. Now, defensively, they did a great job as well because they were able to create consistent pressure on Josh Allen. And everybody knows that if you continue to do it on Josh Allen enough, he's going to get startled. And that's exactly what happened. Outside of those first few explosive plays that the Bills did, the Falcons had them on lock. So great job to the Falcons. And you just gave a playbook for everybody to see on how to beat the Bills. But let's talk about Tua, though. But before we do that, we got to pay some bills. Pardon the interruption, but this is your GM, your Bag Road Dominus, here to talk about RSS.com, all right? So if you guys already don't know, I am a RSS.com affiliate, and so I just want to tell you for just a quick moment about why you should choose RSS.com. So me personally, on my journey of podcasting, I was looking at different platforms just to find the right place. And I looked here, I looked there, I looked everywhere, but I checked out RSS.com, and it was the best decision I ever made. From low prices to interactive analytics to as well as helping you with your distribution. RSS.com does it all. Not to mention, they just started a Slack channel where you can network and interact with other podcasters and even get some insightful tips on how you can increase your podcast even more. Also, RSS.com just launched their paid ads program. So now you can get paid for posting your content. Not to mention, all you have to do is just have 10 downloads and you're qualified for it. Who would want to get paid for doing something that they're passionate about doing? So head on over to RSS.com. I will be attaching my RSS affiliate link within the description. When you click on that link, I will be able to receive some compensation for it. And with that compensation, I will be able to give you guys a better product. A lot of that money will go towards upgrading the microphones, computers, new subscriptions for more analytical information that we can use for future podcasts, all of that and more. Thank you for your support, and thank you RSS.com for making me an affiliate. Now back to the good stuff. And we're back, folks. Let's talk about Tua and these ridiculous comments that he has made that has put everybody against him. I'm talking about former players. I'm talking about current players, media personalities, you name it. Everybody is against Tua right now, okay? So this is what he said in response to a question being asked by Omar Kelly of the Miami Herald, okay? So this is what Tua said, and I quote, "I think it starts with the leadership and helping to articulate that for the guys. And that what we're expecting out of the guys. We're expecting this. Are we getting that? Are we not getting that? We have guys showing up to player-only meetings late. Guys not showing up to the player-only meetings. There's a lot that goes into that. Do we have to make this mandatory? So it's a lot of things of that nature that we got to get cleaned up. And it starts with the little things like that." End quote. Now this is what Jason McCourty had to say about this. And I quote, "I hated every bit of that. I played in New England with Bill Belichick and Tom Brady, and Coach Belichick used to talk about it. When you have true leadership, it doesn't need to be talked about. So if there's a problem, Tua, you're the captain of this team. You're the quarterback. Go handle it. Don't sit here in front of the camera and talk to media members about guys messing up. Get in the locker room, call those guys out by name, and if confrontation happens, then it happens sometimes. But I think to come and air out your dirty laundry and let everybody know that there's a problem, we know there's a problem. You're not winning football games. Go fix it in-house. Handle it that way. I think that's true leadership," end quote. Now this is what Mitchell Schwartz had to say about this, and I quote, "Isn't he just telling on himself? He is the leader of the team, and guys aren't showing up to players-only meetings. This has nothing to do with coaches, front office, etc. Very weird to talk about and admit," end quote. Now this is what former Tennessee GM Rand Carthorne had to say about this, and I quote, "Everything that you said post-game had to do with players, right? And the last time I checked, you wear that C on your chest, which means you're one of the leaders on this team. So if players aren't showing up to player-led meetings, that starts with you. That has nothing to do with Mike McDaniel. That has nothing to do with Chris Greer. That has nothing to do with anybody that is not in that locker room. That's you. That's your teammates that all wear that C on their chest. That's you guys not holding each other accountable. That has nothing to do with the head coach. And what I see out of Tua Tagovailoa, I've never seen him come to the front and say, I have to play better. When he's questioning about the volume of turnovers, it's him being defensive. What do you mean? I don't turn the ball over in bunches. But you turn the ball over. You don't hold yourself accountable. And in order for this organization to play well and to win football games, you have to lead. And no matter what's going on around you, that's out of the player's hands, right? And it comes down to you fighting for the man next to you, your brother that's in the huddle, your brother that's across the locker room for you. So don't worry about any of that. It starts with you. You need to look yourself in the mirror and figure out what you need to do as the starting quarterback for this Miami Dolphins franchise to help them win football games, end quote. Now, this is what Mike McDaniel had to say Monday after these Tua comments were already out, and I quote, "After a loss as the franchise quarterback, that's not the form to displace that. I think he knows that now. I do believe there was no ill will intention, but you're talking about a misguided representation of a player-orchestrated film sessions. You're trying to look for reasons that you can attribute to losses, and heavy is the crown of being a franchise quarterback. What I do know is that he's directly communicating with a lot of guys, starting with last night. That's what teammates do. You live and you learn. And ultimately, I look at it like everything else. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. Accountability in our team's performance lies squarely on my shoulders," end quote. Now, here's the stat line for Tua for that game, okay? 32 attempts for 21 completions, 205 passing yards, 1 touchdown, 3 picks, 6.4 yards per attempt, and a 65.6 completion percentage. Now here's the injury report for the Chargers. They didn't have Quentin Johnson, Darius Davis, Scott Matlock, Nico Reed, Jamari Slayer, Joe Alt, or Trey Pipkins III. So you mean to tell me that you're going to air out the team's dirty laundry the way that you did on public forum? Tom Brady, Peyton Manning, Drew Brees, none of those great quarterbacks would never do anything like that. So what gives you the right to say the things that you say? I understand you're not winning. I understand there's a lot of turmoil around you. I understand that from the outside looking in, everybody is saying the same thing. Blow everything up. You're not a good quarterback. I understand that. But what you cannot do is air out the team's dirty laundry. Because guess what's going to happen? The media is going to run with this. You cannot be making the type of money that you are making and just do something like this. It'll be different if this was a receiver, if this was an offensive lineman, if this was a corner or a pass rusher. Okay, fine, whatever. You'll still get some flack back, but it won't be as big as what it is right now. But you're the quarterback. You're the face of the franchise. When people talk about the team, you are the first person that pops up. And the fact that you didn't think about that in that moment, and you were so brutally honest, that now that you have essentially destroyed any and all relationships in that locker room. Who in the world really wants to fight for a quarterback who just finished saying, oh yeah, people don't really show up to the player-only meetings like that. People are just, late sometimes, or they may just not come at all. What? Who in the world does something like this? No one cares. You know what people care about is you winning. And then on top of that, why in the world are you talking when you threw 3 picks in this game? 3 picks! It'll be different if you was balling out and you was doing your thing and you may get a little bit frustrated. Okay, fine. That's a normal thing as a person. But for you to do what you have done to her, by some people's standards, is unforgivable. I'm sorry, you cannot do that, because guess what's going to happen? Everyone is going to look at you with a side eye. Because guess what? When Tyreek Hill said what he said this offseason, oh, let's protect Tua. Let's make sure Tua is okay. Let's coddle Tua. Oh, where's that now? Where's that now? Because all I see is somebody who really can't handle the pressure. This is what happens when you are a quarterback in the National Football League. You have to deal with the pressure. And if you can't handle the pressure, let somebody else do it. But this is exactly why I said what I said about why they shouldn't have never gave him the contract that they gave him. Because ever since they gave him his contract, he's been feeling himself. He's been smelling his own shit every single week. And you can't just air yourself out like that, because guess what? If you don't have a good game on Sunday, guess what? Everybody's going to refer to exactly what you just said this past Sunday. And if you're a team who possibly want to make a trade for you, because most likely the Dolphins are going to get rid of you, who would want that in their locker room? I wouldn't want that in my locker room. Too much is given, much is required. You cannot be making the type of money that you are making and say the things that you are saying. Not once did I hear, you know what, I just have to play better. Or you could have just said, you know what, I don't really have the answer for that, but you know what, come back to me maybe about a few days and I'll give you an answer. Or there's so many different ways that you could have went about answering that question. But you decided that, you know what, I'm going to be super honest. And in doing so, you have now essentially burned every relationship that you have in your locker room. Not to mention, by some people's standards, one could assume that, hey, are you throwing your head coach under the bus as well? And this is the same head coach that said, you know what, I'm going to help you out. I'm going to build the best version of Tua that the NFL has ever seen. And so far, all I see is somebody that is smelling himself, that feels like he's the big man on the block, when in actuality, you're not. I just saw Baker Mayfield without Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, who lost Emeka Buka during the game, who didn't have Bucky Irvin, find a way to win. So what is your excuse? There is no excuse. Either you got it or you don't. That's just what it is. So why in the world would you say something like this? And I remember that entire summer. Everyone was making it seem like Tyreek Hill was just this villainous person for the things that he said. There may be some truth with this. We only saw one side of Tyreek Hill with that entire situation of him saying, I would rather have these other quarterbacks than Tua. We don't know the day-to-day relationship that he has with Tua. We don't know how Tua is on a day-to-day basis. It's the same thing with Russell Wilson. No disrespect to Russell Wilson, but there are a lot of people that said, hey, Russ really isn't a cool person. As a Steelers fan, when the leaks were coming out about how him and Arthur Smith were at odds and, they had disagreements on how they wanted to execute the offense and whatnot. Oh, that let me know. That already let me know what type of person we're dealing with. So at some point, you're going to take accountability or not, Tua, because you have to take accountability for this. Granted, there are some things that are out of your control, but the things that you can control, you don't control, and you point the finger at everybody else. And so how are you going to be able to talk to your guys and say, you know what, guys, that's on me. I apologize for that. You can't do it anymore because it's already done. And guess what? Everybody's going to be asking this same question for the rest of the year to all of these players. But you want to know what makes things worse? And this is the last thing I'm going to say about this. And we're going to talk about trade projections. And then we're going to end the episode. Justin Herbert didn't have neither one of his starting tackles and found a way to win. But when you face a little bit of adversity, you crumble like flour hitting water. I'm done. Let's talk about trade projections. So with the trade deadline coming around, I feel like we need to talk about the cap space with every single team right now before we get into, possible trades and whatnot. So, of course, we all know the Patriots right now have the most cap space in the entire league. They have $54.3 million. The Cowboys have $31.7 million. The Commanders have $27.8 million. The San Francisco 49ers have 26.3. The Lions have 25.2. The Browns have 23.6. The Seahawks have 22.8. The Steelers have 21.2. The Panthers have 20.4. The Titans have 19.2. The Buccaneers have 17 million. The Vikings have 16.9 million. The Cardinals have 16.7. The Ravens have 14.1. The Broncos have 13.5. The Texans have 12.8. The Packers have 12.1. The Jets have 11.7 million. The Rams have 11.6 million. The Saints have 11.6 million as well. The Eagles have 11.3. The Bengals have 9.7. The Bears have 8.2. The Raiders have 8 million. The Colts have 6.9 million. The Falcons have 5.8 million. The Chiefs have 3.4 million. The Chargers have 2.6 million. The Bills have 2.2 million. The Dolphins have 1.2 million. The Giants have negative 488,454 cap space. And the Jaguars have negative $998,791. Woo! So if you're the Dolphins, Giants, or Jaguars, you essentially don't have anything. So you're probably not going to be a player. Or if you are, you're most likely going to be a seller. So with that being said, if you're any of the teams that I just listed, from the Patriots probably to, I would say maybe the Colts, you can make some moves. Everybody else, not so much. But let's talk about it though. So the first person that comes to mind is Jeffrey Simmons. I truly believe that he's going to get traded. I think right now, if you're the Titans, you can use that extra pick because most likely you can ask for a first-round pick and somebody will be willing to give it to you. So you have 2 first-round picks next year, which you're really going to need because you're going to need to bring in more weapons for Cam Ward while at the same time address other needs on this team. Now, the teams that could be interested for Jeffrey Simmons includes Ravens, 49ers, Eagles, and Bills. What do they all have in common? Bad defensive lines right now that need an elite pass rusher. And Jeffrey Simmons can play on the inside and outside. And even when you look at his contract is actually really good. His base salary this year, according to Spotrac, is only $17.5 million, and his cap hit is only $22.7 million. And then the next 2 years, $20.1 million for his base salary. His cap hit $25.4 million. And then his last year before he's an unrestricted free agent, $23 million with a cap hit of $28.3 million. That's not bad at all. And he's only 28 years old. I would give up a first round pick in a heartbeat. Now, Kirk Cousins, I don't believe he's going to get traded. For one, he has a bad contract. And two, why would I want to give up a potential second or third round pick for a quarterback that, when he was on the field, really didn't show a lot? Not to mention, when you look at his contract, I mean, the cap hits are egregious. This year, $40 million. Next year, 57.5, and then the year after that, 57.5 as well. That's not good. And then your base salaries, I mean, come on, 27.5 million this year, and then 35 million for the next 2 years. Who wants to deal with that? Nobody. Mark Andrews, I would say he stays in Baltimore this year, but I do believe they're going to move off of him next year. I think with Isaiah Likely coming up for a contract, it's just better that you go with Isaiah Likely at this point. And even if a team was to trade for Mark Andrews, he's at the end of his contract. So his base salary is only $7 million with a cap hit of only $16.9 million. That's not bad at all. But let's keep this thing going. DJ Moore. I think he may get traded, but don't hold me to it. Now, if he was traded, I believe the Steelers, 49ers, Chiefs, Commanders, and Browns will be interested in DJ Moore. Now, with him, you could probably give up maybe a third, maybe a fourth round pick to get DJ Moore. Now with his contract, however, I mean, it's still fairly new. So even when you look at the financials, it's somewhat easy to take on, right? So his cap hit this year, $24.9 million. Next year is $28.5 million. The year after that, $28.5. The year after that, $28.5. And then his last year, $24.5. That's not bad. Even with his base salaries, 20.6 this year, 23.4 for the next 3 years, or actually no, for the remainder of his contract. So either way, it's a good contract to take on. And he's only 28 years old. So with the Bears drafting Luther Burden and them having Roma Dunze and the other receiver, you might as well want to get off of DJ Moore. Just saying. Tyreek Woolen, I think he's going to get traded. And the reason why I say that is because there's a lot of teams that need a good outside corner. I think the Eagles, possibly the Ravens, 49ers, Commanders, Bears, Colts, Bucs will definitely want someone like a Tyreek Woolen. Now, if I'm the Bucs, I would make this trade immediately. And the reason why I say that is because if you make a move for someone like a Tyreek Woolen, it's going to show up your secondary a whole lot more. Not to mention the cap hit that you're going to take this year, $5.4 million. Now, yes, you're going to have to figure out what you're going to do after this season, but we'll cross that bridge when we cross that bridge. And even then, I don't think he's due top 5 or top 3 cornerback money. I think if you give him maybe around 22, maybe 23 million a year, I think no one's complaining about it, honestly. Bradley Chubb, I think he's definitely going to get traded. And I think you can get Bradley Chubb for a steal. I think you can get him for maybe a 4th, maybe 5th round pick, I would say. I don't think no one is giving up a 3rd round pick for Bradley Chubb. Not with this crazy contract, no. Now, I think the 49ers, Ravens, Bills, Chargers, Cowboys, and Eagles should all be interested in this. Now, his cap hit this year is $12.3 million. Mind you, they did do a restructure, I think either this year or last year. But his base salary in 26 is 19.4, and then his base salary in 27 is 18.4 million. So it's not that bad of a contract. It's just, my thing is, why would I give up high compensation for somebody that really hasn't been productive since being with the Dolphins? Just saying. Now, when we talk about Trevon Diggs, I'm a little bit undecided. And the reason why I say that is because any team that would be interested in him will most likely be teams within their division. And I don't think Jerry Jones is going to give Howie Trevon Diggs. That's like the Steelers giving T.J. Watt to the Browns. If he was to make Trevon Diggs available, I think the Ravens, 49ers, Commanders, Bears, Colts, and Bucs may be interested in him. Now, you could automatically disqualify the Commanders because, again, division rivals. And I don't think that would happen anyway, but crazier things have happened. But if you're any of those other teams, I feel like you should probably call in for the Cowboys and see what's the asking price for Trevon Diggs. Now, you already know Jerry Jones is going to drive up the price. He's probably going to say a second round pick, even though most likely Trevon Diggs is worth maybe a third or fourth round pick. And let's keep this thing going. Chris Olave, I do believe he's going to get traded. It's between him or Rashid Shaheed. But with Chris Olave, he's on his rookie deal, of course. They did pick up his fifth-year option. So most likely you are going to have to pay him. Now his market value, I don't know on my head. My guess is it's between 20 and maybe 28 million a year. I'm not going over 28 for Chris Olave. I'm sorry. You have concussion problems and you really can't stay healthy. Just being completely honest here. But if he was to get traded, I do believe the Steelers, Commanders, 49ers, Chiefs, Browns, and Titans would all be interested in him. But I do believe the Steelers, Commanders, and 49ers and Chiefs will probably be more interested in him. And the only reason why I say that is because all of them need another receiver, especially the Steelers. Now the question is, what would be the asking price for someone like a Chris Olave? My guess is maybe a second round pick, maybe a third. If they're asking for a first round pick for Chris Olave, you're out of your mind because I'm not doing that. But a second, I may not like it, but if it means that I have a wide receiver too and somebody that's going to be with the team for the long run, well then I have to do what I have to do. If DK Metcalf can get traded for a second round pick, Chris Olave can get traded for a second and third round pick. Just saying. Russell Wilson, traded. The only team that I could think of is the Raiders. And the only reason why I say that is because he can reunite with Pete Carroll. Now the question is this. How long is Russell Wilson going to sit behind Jackson Dart? Because we all know at some point Russell Wilson is going to get a little bit antsy and then he's going to go to the media and everyone's going to be talking about, well, Russell Wilson is not happy with, his role on the Giants and whatnot. So we all know that's going to happen within the next few weeks. Just stay tuned for that. You already know, right? Now let's talk about Jalen Phillips. Trading. I think right now, if you're a team that wants a young pass rusher that, quite frankly, you can give him an extension that's not going to break the bank, I would say make a trade for Jalen Phillips. Now, if you're the 49ers, Ravens, or Eagles, I feel like you guys should be on the phone with them right now. I think you can get Jalen Phillips for a fifth-round pick. Because, this year he really has been playing well. None of the pass rushers on the Dolphins have been playing well. So I think that should be more of a reason for any of those teams to make a trade for him. Now with Rashid Shaheed, one or two things are going to happen. Either he's going to stay or he's going to be traded. Now I will say this. If you're trading for Rashid Shaheed, just know he's just a season rental. Because after this season, he's an unrestricted free agent. Now if he was to be traded, I think the Steelers, 49ers, Browns, Commanders, Titans, and Chiefs should all inquire about him. Because he is having a good year this year. The question is, would you be willing to give up whatever the Saints are asking for? Because either Chris Olave or Rashid Shaheed is getting traded. One of the two, not the both of them. Now, if I'm the Saints, I think I would probably trade away Chris Olave because I can get more with Chris Olave than I could with Rashid Shaheed. But that's just my personal opinion. And I think you can give Rashid Shaheed maybe a 2 or 3 year extension that it's not really going to break the bank, but at the same time, it's a reliable weapon that's going to stay here for when the next quarterback gets drafted. Just saying. Allen Lazard, traded. And the only reason why I say that is because his role in this offense has dwindled as the season progresses. So that lets me know that he's fallen out of the good graces of this team. Now, if I'm the Steelers, reunite him with Aaron Rodgers. If I'm the 49ers, Chiefs, Titans, Commanders, it's a bigger body receiver, red zone threat, don't have to give up a whole lot to get him, I would do it. His cap hit this year is only $4.1 million with a base salary of only $1.7 million. That's not bad. Now, when you make this move, just know he's only a season rental. So after this season, you're going to have to figure out what you're going to do with him. Are you going to give him an extension or are you going to let him know? Now, there was a few other people that was, thinking about putting him on this list, but I was like, you know what? No, it's not worth it. It really isn't because a lot of those players are probably going to stay with the team anyway. So If there's anybody I'm thinking of, maybe I'll talk about it in the next episode. I don't know, but I'm going to end this episode here. If you guys like what you were listening, please, 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 please make sure you guys leave a 5-star review on anywhere and everywhere that you can listen to podcasts, okay? We are available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and anywhere else that you listen to podcasts, all right? All you have to do is type in Football Junkies Podcast. I should be the first person that come up, all right? Now, for my YouTube people, like, share, subscribe, turn the notification bell on, leave a comment down below. Let me know your thoughts on anything and everything that I have talked with this episode, all right? I know it's been a while, but it's okay. All is well, my friends, okay? Now, for my YouTube people, Football Junkies Pod, all right? Football Junkies Pod. When you go on our YouTube, there's a link tree. When you click on that link tree, it will take you to anywhere and everywhere that we have Football Junkies content, all right? Whether that be our TikTok, our Instagram, our RSS affiliate link, which if you are somebody like a podcaster or anything like that, that is looking for a good place to go, rss.com is the way to go, all right? Now, what am I forgetting? For my Instagram people, all right? Football_Junkies Pod, all right? Football_Junkies Pod. Junkies Pod is not what? It is together, not spaced, all right? It is together, not spaced. Football_Junkies Pod, all right? For my TikTok people, Football Junkies Pod. Football Junkies Pod. For my Twitter/X people, GMKale, all right? GMKAILE. And for my Blue Sky people, GMKale. GMKAILE, all right? As always, I hope I gave you guys the fix that you guys need. I love you guys. I appreciate you guys so much. Thank you guys for listening to another episode of the Football Junkies Podcast. I appreciate you guys so much. I know it's been a while, but I'm back, folks. I'm back. I'm refreshed, ready to get back in the race, okay? So stay tuned. You already know we're going to talk about football fairly soon. Who knows? There may be some new content. Maybe just some YouTube-only content that'll be coming out soon. You never know. Stay tuned. Also, I'm going to say it again. I will not be doing a gut check time until after the trade deadline, okay? But if anything crazy happens from now until the trade deadline that's really significant, I'll do a quick episode about it, all right? So as always, I love you guys. Appreciate you guys so much. This is your GM Kill signing out. Peace and love. Later.